when you're doing surgeries and doing things like that, it's nice to have the support, because if you're out there on your own, I think we're going to be a huge to add to a lot of these practitioners out there who really continue to expand their service and take care of patients, and we're going to support them. So we're excited. We really are.
Welcome to Community Conversations, a podcast for general practitioners and specialists at dental practices who are focused on growing the practice of implantology. In each episode, we cover trends and advancements in implantology, the challenges facing practitioners, and share experiences from MODIS Dental Partners' multidisciplinary practices. Ultimately, you will gain insight into your growing practice. Let's get started.
Welcome to episode 2 of Community Conversations. Today I had the privilege and honor of speaking with Dana Fender. Dr. Dana Fender is a partner at the Thurston Group. He's responsible for development and relationship management of all physician practice management companies. This includes coaching and working with clinical leaders, research endeavors, and practice growth opportunities. Prior to joining the Thurston Group, Dr. Fender co-founded Smile Doctors, where he served as Chief Clinical Business Development Officer since 2015. For anybody that's interested or even considering selling a dental practice to a DSO, listen to this conversation. We go through a wide range of Dana's career and personal life, really beginning as an orthodontist who had built a 10-site practice, then founded a private equity-backed specialty platform, the first of its kind with Smile Doctors, and ultimately moving into the role of partner at the Thurston Group. Dana gives a perspective that I think would be surprising to many folks exploring a sale. Dana consistently brings up themes of not only growth, but really the opportunities that come from building a platform, and not just for sellers, but also for team members, and really bringing people along. And I think each of you will hear that as a continual theme throughout the conversation. Hey, Dana, thanks for joining.
How you doing, Pete?
Good, man. I'm super excited to do this. You've been a mentor to me since I've started here at MODIS, and I think that's really important for people, anybody that's thinking about selling a practice, really to understand what they're getting into, and your journey from practice owner to building a platform to now working at one of the most prolific private equity firms really kind of helps explain that journey in a broad way. But before we even get to that point, honestly, I'd love to just hear a little bit about your background. What was your childhood like? Where'd you grow up?
Yeah. Thanks, Pete. Appreciate you taking time to have me on. And, Pete, I was one of those fortunate individuals who really had amazing parents. My mom and dad were traditional parents. I grew up in South Georgia. My mom, it's hard for me to even talk about her without getting emotional, because she was absolutely perfect. I mean, I look back now and I really don't know anything I would change about her, but I had 2 older brothers, so there's 3 boys. And, look, she took amazing care of us. Fortunately, back during that time, less women worked and outside the home, and mom was right there at home with us every day and shuffled us, was at every sporting event you could ever imagine. Just took great care of us. Very, very fortunate. I had food allergies growing up, so I was allergic to milk, corn, chocolate, flour. So she literally had to cook every meal for me and bring it to school. And so I grew up real thin, and 13 I outgrew them, and started loving food, and I've battled weight ever since then. But again, just an amazing lady, very fortunate. Of course, my dad was really exemplified what getting up and working hard every day and just modeled for me. I still try to measure myself up to him as a father, right? I mean, he was amazing. He was to this day probably the most natural salesman I've ever been around. He was in the car business and walked on a car lot when he was 17. He told me barefooted, which I actually believe. He grew up rough and finished high school, but other than that, no other education. And worked there at that dealership for about 35 years. And then they helped him eventually buy his own dealership in a partnership. And he brought my two older brothers in at that point to work with him. And, again, he was just a great role model for me. By far, probably the biggest influence on my life that of anyone that was there. And very thankful for that. They both moved on to a lot better place, and looking forward to reuniting with them one day for sure. But Pete, just extremely blessed to have the parents that I had.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Yeah, I joke with people a lot of times that, and it's only half joking, 1 in a million kind of childhood. Grew up, stable, secure family, not rich, but upper middle class. Mom and dad both, real involved in church, real involved in our lives. I certainly made a lot of stupid mistakes along the way, no doubt. But I think very few kids get to grow up always knowing that they're loved, even when they do dumb stuff. And,
that's right.
I can't think of a time that I ever questioned whether my parents loved me or not. They definitely weren't happy with me when I did dumb things, but they certainly loved me.
Well, as the baby in the family, Mama and Daddy, but particularly Mama, was she got well educated by my two older brothers. So when I came along,
I bet.
Which I look back now and I'm so thankful for, because I knew when I walked in that door I had to answer to her. And she, the one thing that was real effective is that she was sitting in a chair. Daddy was up most nights, but she was up every night. Not one time did I ever walk in the house and my mama was in the bed. She had a recliner. And before I went to sleep, I had to come over, give her a hug and kiss her on the cheek. And let's just say that was very effective.
Yeah.
Growing up, because I knew I had to answer to her, and she didn't play. So very, very thankful for those kisses on the cheek, without a doubt. So
I think they call that accountability.
Yeah, big time. Big time. So anyway, very fortunate.
So definitely, I hear your family your parents in particular were the biggest influences in your life growing up. If you could think back, what would if you could name one or two kind of key life attributes that they showed you and you've held on to as kind of cornerstone of how you choose to live your life going forward?
Yeah, look, I think for my dad, if you were ever around my dad, you were going to feel better about yourself when you left. I mean, he had a genuine love for people that was really amazing. Traditionally you think about car salesmen, you have all these things that come to your mind, but Daddy had people drive from counties and counties away to come buy vehicles for him, because, at the end of the day, he took care of them and they knew he was going to take care of them. And, even through that process, I watched him show a lot of love to a lot of people. And, I was fortunate, I was in school, but I did sell cars in the summer and was able to see him in action. And, so I think for me, when I got out of school and opened my ortho practice, it was really me just modeling what I watched him do in the car business, and which was, look, at all costs, you take care of people. I got tons of great stories we don't have time to go into how I watched Daddy handle customers and things he did, and sometimes lost a sale because he knew it was better for his customer. And, so I carried a lot of that over into the orthodontic side of things, and learned to love on people, and just carried it into my practice. So he was a huge influence. And, for Mom, just the love and the care that she cared for her boys and my dad, and just bringing that forward in life, right? And trying to model a lot of the same characteristics, even though the world's changed greatly. But I still think fundamentally those principles are more important today than they have ever been. So, just those two things. I mean, just clearly loving on people when sometimes you don't necessarily want to, but making sure you do, right? I mean, sometimes it's difficult, but as a general rule, it makes a big difference. So,
yeah, I appreciate that. Transitioning kind of into the early adult life, where'd you go to school? Why'd you choose the schools you went to?
Just grew up athletically playing baseball, football. Football was my main sport. I played basketball as well, which I know is kind of hard to believe, but I think I sat on the bench way more than I played, but pretty decent baseball player, but really loved football. And so graduated from high school and ended up going to I got a scholarship at a university down in South Georgia called MODIS State University, and I was fortunate, did really good in high school, and was valedictorian there, and ended up went over as a scholarship, played football, and started having a little bit of too good of a time, Pete. And kind of looked up one day and realized my grades were not where they should be. And even though I love playing football, I decided to, after 2 years, I stopped playing and really focused on my school. And look, Valdosta State was a great university. It was a small university, but it prepared me really well for getting in dental school and making that step. And so that was a great journey. Ended up leaving there, and I went to the Medical College of Georgia for dental school. And once I finished up dental school, I went to Vanderbilt for my orthodontic training. So it was a 11-year journey after high school, but glad I did it. Glad I put the time in, because being an orthodontist was an amazing experience. I loved every second of it. So it's great.
So you got to tell me, where'd you learn how to do math in your head so fast?
Yes, it comes from Daddy. It comes from Daddy. I mean, I used to watch him. He could do math in his head like that. That was, I used to sit around and go, he'd blow me away how quick he'd come up with figures, just how he looked at things, business wise using math. So, and I can't say I got the same skills on the English side, but I managed to make it, Pete. I'm still working on that every day, especially being from South Georgia.
For anybody that's listening that doesn't know, Dana is famous for how quickly he can do math in his head. And my favorite part about it is every time you do it, Dana, you said, hey guys, let's run the numbers on this. And then you'll start doing the math in your head and expect that anybody else has kept up with you. And I literally, you can see it right here, because this is my desk. I keep this right next to my keyboard for just that moment. Can we do the math real quick? Yeah, sure, Dana. Hold on a second.
I get it from my dad, for sure, no doubt.
It's impressive. Okay, so you finished up your residency at Vandy, and then what?
Yeah, look, I love being in Nashville. It was a great, I was there from 93 to 96. I ended up, both my older boys were born at Vanderbilt, and but you just wanted to get back home and be around family, and decided to come back to South Georgia, and ended up coming back. And fortunately, I grew up right outside of Valdosta, Georgia. So Valdosta's 45 minutes just north of the Florida line. And I grew up in a little town called Quitman, which was like 15 minutes from Valdosta. So I really spent the majority of my time in Valdosta. But there was an orthodontist there in Valdosta that had some health problems. So the other two orthodontists were keeping his practice open for him. So I went down to look at that, and was going to open up in Douglas too, which is the hour further north of Valdosta. And fortunately, I met an orthodontist that was one of the orthodontists keeping that practice open. His name was Wayne Hester. And Wayne was a Georgia Tech grad, engineer, and was just a great man. And So during that process, I was looking at buying that practice, which I decided not to do, but Wayne was so busy. He's just like, we kind of formed a relationship. He's like, Dana, just want you to come in and, come to work for me. And he said, matter of fact, I'll just say you have to practice right out, now. So really
Really?
fortunate to, so became a partner immediately with him. And Wayne was a unbelievable influence on my life. Um, Number one, a great, great orthodontist, but equally important, just a great relator that knew how to love
Mm.
on people, and he's a great communicator. And
Yeah.
when you get out of school, number one, you don't know anything about orthodontics, even though you went to school. I mean, you got a basis, right? But it's like everything else in life. You gotta put your time in, and
Yeah.
so it's so nice to be mentored. After a year with him, because he was backlogged month. We doubled the practice the first 12 months. I mean,
Wow.
even though I didn't know what I was doing, he was really open to letting me bring new ideas in, which I really,
Yeah.
looking back, just really respect and honor that. But now, at the same time, I listened to him, and when he knew something wasn't going to work, I listened to him. But
Yeah.
he really, I can't even begin to explain. As far as mentors in my life, Wayne's right there, right up under my dad, and just
Yeah.
again really fortunate. So I ended up, working in Valdosta there. I was driving back and forth about an hour every day. I was doing that 4 days a week. And then on Fridays, I opened up a practice in Douglas
Hmm.
and just started building it. I had Douglas has got 12,000 people in the city limits. And there was another orthodontist there named Greg Goggins, who was just absolutely amazing. And, everybody thought I was crazy for competing with him. And I think I may have been actually, but, it all worked out over time. And, we ended up becoming partners. But, from that practice in Douglas, Pete, just slowly I started seeing other opportunities to move to other offices and to purchase other offices, had other opportunities. And as time went on, I was spending less and less time in Valdosta. So Wayne and I ended up splitting, not because there was a problem. It's just
Yeah.
that side of the business has grown to the size that the Valdosta location was. And I was the one moving all around. Wayne was going like 1 or 2 days a month. We just decided that they were about equal. So we ended up splitting the practice apart. So at that time I had 3 or 4 locations on that side. But no, the good news with that, there was never an issue whatsoever with Wayne and I. It was just made sense for us to do it. But every time picked up about 10 locations kind of from making below, and
Yeah.
just grew that platform out over time. And again, ended up partnering with Greg Goggins along the way. And Greg and I had a great journey together. And Greg's another great mentor in my life as well. So,
Is
very
it
fortunate.
normal for folks to graduate or complete a residency and move right into a partnership?
Typically not. No, again, just very fortunate. And
Yeah.
Wayne and I hit it off, and he needed the help, and he was willing to let me buy in, which was again, just very fortunate that he extended that towards me. And
Did he ever tell you what he saw?
No, I don't guess he ever has. I can just tell you that he and I were, I mean, gosh, we spent so much time together. He was just a dear friend, mentor, just huge respect on my end for this guy. And Wayne's got up a little bit in age now, but he's still doing really well. I think he's in his mid-70s, and he's still working a day a week, I believe. But, just so thankful for his influence in my life. There's no way I'd be where I am today. Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So you had 10 practices. So what in your mind were the keys to success there? I mean, it sounds like by all accounts, running 10 practices is success.
Yeah, Pete, I wished I could tell everybody I was that smart, but at the end of the day, opportunities presented. I did a lot of praying, and I just don't necessarily want to get into religion. Try not to, but I have a deep faith in what I believe, and the Lord's just has guided my path, and did a lot of praying through the process. But opportunities presented, and man, I'm just one of those that sometimes will jump before I think. And, but because of that, I think there was just some good opportunities I was able to take advantage of, and just very fortunate. But I'm also that guy. I would die if I had to go to the same office every day. So I can get bored really quickly. And as opportunities presented, I just try to take advantage of them and grow it. I remember early on, I had a consultant named Karen Mulwad at Hummingbird, and Karen was another huge influence on my life. But I remember she sat me down. I was probably 34, and I had a few locations in, and she sat me down and she said, Dana, you should have 25 locations. She said, I've never really been around an orthodontist that really understands the concept that you understand on the business side. And I just remember looking at her going, she's crazy. Like I couldn't make it work in my mind at that time. I had kids, and then life was busy, and I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. And, she was right. I just, it just took me a little while to get there. Right. So, but, and once you get to going down that path, Pete, once you get it really, the ability to, this is South Georgia. So none of these towns are really large towns. They're all smaller towns. But as I expanded, for me, it was just an ability to have an impact on people's life. Right. I mean, being an orthodontist is special. I mean, you've got this wonderful team around you that helps you treat patients, but, I had a lot of opportunity on the relationships I have with my moms and dad get treated, and my adults that I treated. And, I know the Lord, had me there to straighten teeth and create beautiful smiles, but also know He had me there to bring people forward, to truly love on people, I always told my team that, we had 30 minutes to an hour with someone, and that opportunity, we were going to straighten their teeth. We were going to love on them first and straighten their teeth second, right? That was my motto in my office. And we'll talk about Smile Doctors later, I'm sure, but it's still a huge part of Smile Doctors today. But I really felt like that was what I was called for. Yeah, we all went to school. We've had training. We can do this. You're going to look great. But the real opportunity that presented there was the fact that we had time with people, and that, we had a chance, because you never know what happens when somebody walks in that door, right? If they, somebody, their parents going through a divorce, or you name it, right? A million things that could be going on in these kids' lives and the adults' lives. And just to, for them to walk in our office and feel love and know that we cared about them, and that we wanted to listen, and we wanted to support them any way we could. And, having the ability to at least making sure they walked out of that office feeling better themselves. And, we worked hard at that, and that was important. And, that's one thing I dearly, I'm not seeing patients anymore today, but that's one thing that I truly do miss, is being that, that relationship with the patients, and the atmosphere of the office. And my team, they were my work family, loved them. I think when we started Smile Doctors, I had 75 ladies working for me, and they were my work family. I had single moms, I knew husbands, I knew kids. Had an amazing team. Miss them, but they were amazing.
We're going to come back to the work family for sure, because I want you to share a couple stories there. It's cool to hear you talk about your experience and what drove you and got you excited as an orthodontist. And I just kind of laugh because, you might not be taking care of patients, you might not be taking care of a staff in an orthodontic shop, but you're still doing all those same things every day. You're coaching and bringing people up all around you. I've been a fortunate beneficiary of that. So you top of your class, valedictorian. I think you graduated top of your class in dental school, became an orthodontist, started as a partner in a practice, grew, moved on, grew to 10 locations. I haven't heard anything about you exploring or thinking about finance or private equity or any of that in your family history. So talk to me about this major shift from 10 practice owner to Smile Doctors.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I'm a conservative thinker by nature,
Hmm.
and I never, if you'd walked up to me 10 years ago and told me I was going to be part of quote corporate dentistry, I probably would have um, not been. I just would have probably turned around and walked off because there was just no way, right, at the time. And
Yeah.
I can even remember when I got out of school, my dad, talking with my dad on the business side, he's like, "Well, son, how are you going to advertise?" And I said, "Well, Dad, we don't advertise." Because we're, but traditionally in dentistry, you just didn't advertise, right? I mean,
Right.
and he looked at me, he said, no, he said, like, how are you going to let people know you're here? And how are they going to know what you're doing? He said, you're going to run some TV or what are you going to do? And I said, Dad, we don't do that. I looked back now and laughed and he was kind. He said, okay, all right, well, I'm sure you'll do well. But I know looking back now, he's like, what in the world, so obviously, I started doing some advertising. I had Hummers and things like that. We had a lot of fun stuff we did. But you know, Pete, I think as time went on, just the ability to continue to grow and do all those things just had a huge impact on me. So
Yeah.
I got sidetracked there. You have to give me the question again so I can get back to it.
Yeah. So just
My
keep
mind.
rolling with it and talk to me about how you moved from the 10 sites then
Yeah.
into creating Smile.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I got thinking about the old times and got sidetracked.
That's
So
good.
again, as you know, when I ended up with that many locations, of course, in my mind, I started thinking, even though I was still relatively young, I was like, what in the world am I going to do with these practices? Because, not everybody stacked up looking to come to South Georgia to practice orthodontics, right? And
Right.
the dental world had started the DSOs. You had Heartland, Pacific. You had some really large DSOs that were thriving on the general dentistry side.
Mm.
And one of the things that we were noticing is that they really were struggling on the specialty dental side, right? And
Right.
so it's kind of a funny story. I didn't do a lot of study clubs coming along, but I got a call on a study club called the Shulman Group, and it was from a guy that I really respected. Called me and asked me to join it, and it was a group of orthodontists across the country that supposedly there's 125 orthodontists in. They were supposedly the best in class across the country. They if you join, you had geographic exclusivity in your area. You ended up turning over all of your numbers to them so they could really evaluate your practice. And they were really known for the practice analytics side of things. And
Yeah.
so I ended up joining and gave them all my numbers and went to the first meet. And honestly, I was really excited because I had just kind of kept my head down working with my consultant who was amazing and just getting after it. And so I was kind of excited to kind of see where I stacked up and how I was doing. Thought I was doing pretty good from my consultant. She had some knowledge there as well. But so we showed up, I think it was the second day, showed up and sat down and they called out 5 names, which one of them was mine and said, hey, we had to take y'all's numbers out because y'all would have skewed the data. So y'all just need to get up and go out in the hallway and talk with each other because we had to take your numbers out. And, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I was frustrated. So walked down the hallway and, fortunately I met a guy named Scott Long, who was a very young orthodontist out in Texas who had a gigantic single location at the age of 33. And, he and I hit it off and we started these conversations around, we visited each other's practices and there was just a lot of alignment on how we wanted to practice orthodontics and particularly how we treated our team and how, he and I both had a passion for what we were doing with patients, but really had a passion for our team and creating opportunities to bring them forward. Right. So we started talking and ended up there's a lot more to the story, but eventually evolved into trying to start a orthodontic platform based off of what I was doing in my office and what he was doing. We have a lot of alignment and knew that if we could get something going, that it would provide a lot of opportunity for our team. And so that's how I got started. Again, Pete, just been led, been very fortunate. And I had a lot of steps guided for me, for sure.
So at this point, you and Scott were aligned on trying to build a platform. And did you all go to market? Were you reaching out to different private equities?
Yeah. So it's, we ended up talking to some other private equity firms, and fortunately, Scotty Hudsmith, there was 3 of us that founded Smile Doctors. There were actually 4 of us. Greg Goggins, who I mentioned earlier, who came into practice. And I didn't spend much time talking about Greg, but Greg was practicing in Douglas there, and we ended up bringing our practices together. Greg was a state senator, another amazing orthodontist, another huge influence in my life. So fortunate. But it was myself, Scott, Greg, and then Scotty Hudsmith, who was the CEO for our platform that founded it with us. But so Scotty knew a guy named Pat Haynes at Thurston Group. And so after talking to a few private equity firms, I was fortunate enough to sit down with Pat over in Savannah, and met him. And Pete, it's just one of those times in my life that I listened and really well, and just knew he was the guy. I left. I will never forget. I sat down and talked with him, and got back in my car. I called my wife and I said, "He's the guy." And of course, she's like, "How do you know? What do you mean?" I was like, "I said, he's the guy." And one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. Pat's been another incredible mentor. Obviously, I'm in business with him now, and but so thankful for that meeting and being part of Thurston. But that's how it got started. So so Pat got involved, got us to help us, or get everything organized, and carried us to market. So just very fortunate to meet him.
So, well, why don't we jump in a little bit, just brag a little bit about the returns and the growth trajectory, and then we might dig it back into some of the details on Smile. But
so we we started with 11 locations, like we had the base in Georgia, and then Scott's practice out in Texas. And Scott's in the process of another practice, I believe, so maybe 12 locations. And Scott was I've been straight in the teeth 20-something years, loved every second of it, but I was really interested on the business side, and so Scott took the chief clinical role, and I took the M&A role, the business side. And Pete, we laid out a 5-year plan for growth, and I hit the road, and fortunately had some relationships with some really great orthodontists, and we looked up in 14 months, and we had grown enough to where we were ready to have an equity event, which was really amazing. We had no idea that it would go at that pace. And we all were working 7 days a week, but it wouldn't trade it for anything. And but yeah, we got there, and we had an equity event within the first 2 years, and we had a really good return. Just an amazing process. Brought on some incredible orthodontists, and to this day, Smile Doctors. So that first equity event, we grew to, we were run rating, I think, a little over 40 million of EBITDA. And
that was from a starting point of what?
2015 to October 2015. And we actually closed in October of 2017. We had our first equity event 24 months on the spot, on the date. And, from there, Linden Capital came in, a really good private equity firm that I was fortunate to work with, and we ended up growing it substantially from there. And then in December of 21, we had another equity event, and Linden stayed with the business. They brought in TH Lee, and at that point we had a $2.4 billion valuation. And from going back to day one, and Scott and I, we laugh about it because never ever was money mentioned with Scott and I during this process. Number one, I didn't know anything about private equity. And the only thing I knew is they were bad people and they would take advantage of it. That's what I had been told. And that's what I thought. And to think that, our mindset was simply that we wanted to influence people's lives, and we wanted to take great care of patients, and we wanted to try to model what we were doing across the platform. And we had no idea if it would work financially. We had enough sense to know that our individual businesses were very successful, and if we would just do the right thing and take great care of people, surely it would work.
Yeah.
Surely. Right.
You
Sure.
sure?
Right. But we had no idea. We had not a
Yeah.
clue how this world worked or anything. Um, and it has been a great experience. All the, I've had an opposite experience in the private equity world, and very fortunate to have partnered and worked with a lot of great people. They're, it's like everything else in life, Pete. You got to align yourself with the right people. And when you do, things work out. And
Yeah.
we're very fortunate. So, learned a lot over the last 7 or 8 years, and wouldn't trade it for anything, but just very fortunate on our private equity partners for sure. And it all
So
started with Thurston. I mean, Pat
talking
set the
about
stage for
things
it all.
working out, Dana,
Yeah.
if I invested $1 in Smile back in October of 2015, rough, how much is that dollar worth to me today?
Well, it's starting from day one with my evaluation, probably north of 15, 20 times.
That's
Yeah.
tremendous.
Crazy. And, I'm not going to sit here and tell you anybody that I had that vision of that. I just got up, went to work, and again, just try to bring people forward around us. And we had a lot of good people to help us. So we really did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
If you don't mind, because I know you love telling these stories, I'd love to hear at least one of them from a team member of yours, and how building Smile Doctors created an opportunity in their life.
yeah, I've got a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Fortunately, and they're still with Smile Doctors today. I think maybe one or two would be when I was Hillary Anderson. Hillary, my boys were going to middle school, and I was I'd go in the office every once in a while to pick one of them up, whatever. And there was a lady in there that I knew her family, didn't know her real well at all, but she was always just calm, and it was chaotic in there like crazy. And I was back at we were looking for a Hummer driver, part-time Hummer driver, as a matter of fact. And of course I always hired moms. Our Hummer, we would actually pick kids up from school, bring them to the office, do their orthodontic adjustment, and then carry them back to school. And
Yeah.
usually feed them in between there too, run them through and get them back or whatever. So it was, it was a lot of fun for kids. So we needed I always hired moms with perfect driving records. That was,
Right.
and so they were hiring a Hummer driver, and I heard the name Hillary come up, and I was like, yeah, she's great. I can hire her. And so she started driving Hummer for us part-time and became part of the culture, decided to come back to work full-time. Her kids had gotten older, and started on my front desk and ended up running the front desk. We opened a call center, a patient service center, ended up with 15, 20 people in it. And she moved over to that and ran my patient service center for me. And of course, when we started Smile Doctors, I brought all them with me. And, today she's had several roles. She actually moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and her choice, with her husband. And she's running 3 or 4 states, probably 30, 35 million revenue as a, what we call a director of operations. And, but today she actually manages the affiliations for Smile Doctors. And, from what I was paying her in South Georgia to what she's making today, it's been life changing. She's an owner. She's an equity owner. So, just to watch people like that have the opportunity is by far probably one of my most favorite things about Smile Doctors. And, just seeing people being able to come forward and really shine when the opportunities presented to them is pretty special. So, yeah.
It's something that people don't
it's
talk
a dream.
about. Yeah.
Nah, it's look, I miss those ladies every day, and but they're amazing at what they do. Just really proud of them. Well, another quick one, I had Jody Peacock, who was a consultant as well. She ended up coming over as an office manager for me, and I can talk about Jody for days here, but for the sake of time, I'll do this quick. But Jody was managing my office for me, and I told her we were hiring a new patient coordinator, and I said, hey, I want a salesperson. You go, I don't care where you go, but I want a salesperson in the spot.
Mm-hmm.
So I walk into the office, and lady sitting there, and introduced myself, and walked in the room next door, called Jody. I said, hey, tell me about this gal. Name was Shelly Schaefer. And she said, "Oh, you're gonna love her, Dana. You're gonna love her. She's gonna be awesome." I said, "Okay, cool. Where was she selling and what was she doing?" She's like, "Oh, look, Dana, you're gonna love her. She's gonna be incredible at her job." And I was like, "Okay, well, I appreciate you getting her hired." I said, "Where does she sell at? What does she do?" She said, "Well, she really wasn't a sales." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, she worked at a prison. She was the secretary to the ward at the prison." And I said, "What?" They, Jody was amazing at hiring, and sure enough, Shelly ended up being an incredible new patient coordinator. And today in Smile Doctor, she became a director of operation, and she ended up on the operational side, handling half the business,
Wow.
which is amazing. And it's just
Yeah.
flourished. And again, another great story of having opportunities to move forward. Like she's
Yeah.
been amazing. So, but I could keep going on that all day. So we'll move on. And there's a lot of people I'd like to have time to mention, but
No, it's so good because I think we oftentimes hear all the scary stories about private equity, and a lot of them, unfortunately, are true.
yeah,
You just don't hear enough about how when you're in a business that's growing rapidly, it does create opportunity for everybody around.
does because look,
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it, right? As we scale and grow, the business has to have resources, and there's so many
Yeah.
talented people in these practices that
Yeah.
we partner with, and the
Yep.
opportunities that's presented for that these people are amazing. And
Hmm.
we're really careful who we partner with, and all of our partners are excited to extend that opportunity to the people that have been with them,
Yeah.
have worked hard side by side with them, and are thrilled to see people get opportunities, and it presents usually better pay, better opportunities. You can go on and on. So yeah, it's I look back, Pete. I loved every second of running my own practice. Right when I got out of school,
Mm.
there was no way that I wasn't going to be a business owner.
Yeah.
Wasn't and things have changed now. But I mean, wouldn't have mattered if somebody had offered me a huge check. I would have said no. I was going to have my own business, but I look back now that I've done both. Right, I
Yeah.
spent 20 plus years doing it myself, and now I've spent 8 and partnerships with other practitioners and business folks, and I wouldn't go back there for anything now. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, I just wouldn't, because there's so many advantages. Once you get past the fact that nobody's going to take advantage of you, and you partner with the right platform, and
Right.
and everything's going in the right direction, and we're really changing people's lives. And there's no way I'd want to go back to that world again.
Yeah.
Because there's so many advantages here. Nothing's perfect, right?
Yeah.
Nothing's perfect. So the work life is never perfect, but being in a real solid group with a lot of high quality providers and having that support, that backup is huge.
Yeah.
It's a great thing to be a part of.
Yeah. So, well, before we jump into private equity, because I do want to go there too. Um, we person looks at you and your career and all the success you've had. It's hard to believe that a guy like you might have had some areas where you stumbled too. I'm just kind of curious, anything that as you made the transition from orthodontist and private practice owner to, partner in a platform, building on a platform, were there any like skills and attributes that might have helped you be successful as a private practice owner that started to hold you back as you jumped on this kind of high growth rocket ship?
Um, Pete, I think when I was running my own show, you're making all decisions. It's you're in the middle of everything.
Yeah.
You really, in a lot of ways, lose sight of understand, making decisions on your own, not having somebody in your ear with any influence. I mean, I was a
Yeah.
decision maker, right or
Right.
wrong, and there were a
Right.
lot of good decisions I made, but there were some really bad too. And
Yeah.
when I got into the corporate world, the sandbox changed. Right,
Mm.
I had a lot of people in the sandbox, and
Yeah.
it was tough in the beginning. I really had to learn to play in the sandbox. and to be quite frank, I needed to learn how to play in the sandbox different.
Yeah.
I had a lot of smart people around me, great orthodontists, great business folks. Um, and I had to learn to listen, absorb, and be coachable again. I mean, that was probably the biggest thing. I had a great practice, and sometimes you can get ahead of your skis and get a little arrogant, and but getting in that sandbox with a lot of other smart people was really good for
Yeah.
me. I have no doubt I became a better practitioner. I became a better husband, a better father. Uh, it was really good for me. And
Yeah.
I can't tell you it was easy at times, because there were some frustrating days when I would see something that I knew was not going to work, and then lo and behold, it did work. And there were times when I knew something was going to work and it didn't work, but still, it really taught me to sit back and listen and be coachable and realize there's oftentimes multiple paths to the same place.
Yeah.
Right. And again, learning how to love and support my colleagues, my coworkers, and being a creative the right way, and not, and not getting in the way, but helping those move forward. Right. So for me, it was a really good thing to get in a sandbox with some other folks that were really honestly way smarter than me, and way more talented than me. And it just, again, it brought me forward
Right.
without a doubt. Without a doubt. I look back now, and I've grown tremendously over the last 7 or 8 years, and I want to grow just as much the next 7 or 8. Right. So
Yeah.
I'm getting up every day with an open mind, an open heart, just wanting to get better at what I'm doing, and support people, love on people through these business. People, unfortunately, are mistaken that uh, love and gratitude and all the good things in life can be part of a business. By the way, it's
Right.
not all it's not all cutthroat and Johnny get your gun. Right? It's not that way. Doesn't need to be that way. The numbers matter. Do you have to work hard? Do you have to try? Do you have to work
Yeah.
really hard at what you're doing on the business side? But when you lose sight of what really matters, I think oftentimes business is really so.
Yeah. I hear you. So that sounds like the exact opposite of what most people think about when they think about private equity. And
Yeah.
I hope maybe you can talk to me a little bit about how you made that transition. And obviously, Thurston has to be a little different if you can talk about building something while loving people and taking everybody along and growing.
Yeah. Pat and I hit it off from day one. And, Pat there's a strong, military, background in Thurston, and Pat was a Marine, um, loved his country, incredible guy. Dan Davis,
Yeah.
who's our managing partner, was a Marine as well, several tours. You know, um, for me, Pete, I've been blessed financially. And what I really loved about Pat, Dan, and the culture at Thurston was that, um, from my dealings with them, I knew it wasn't necessarily about a dollar, right? It wasn't. It was really the integrity side of how these guys function was really aligned with me, right? So I knew that based off my relationship with them, that if I had the opportunity to get business with it, it's somebody I would want to work with. And to
Yeah.
this day, it's not about money. Our culture in our firm, we're a small boutique firm. There's 8 of us on the team. Of course, Pat's our chairman and CEO, Dan Davis, our managing partner, and then myself as a partner. And, what I really liked about those guys was that I knew that they were going to bring something on the private equity side that really nobody else does. And, it's not,
Right.
yeah, we crunch numbers. Yes, we do this. We do everything we got to do on the business side to make sure we're successful. More importantly, people come first. Right.
Mhm.
And they weren't just saying it. I watched them. I watched
Yeah.
Pat and Dan both in situations where we could have easily gone this way and we would have been right and it would have been better for us financially, but instead we went the other way and we supported our partners and we made decisions based off of what was better for that person, regardless of the financial situation or anything like that. And that kind of stuff matters to me, right? Life's too short. So The other thing is we focus on, we have a real heavy emphasis on healthcare. So the opportunity again to develop companies that have impact on people's lives is something that I love to be a part of. And that's really Dan and Pat as well. So, we specialize in starting companies small, anywhere from $500,000 of EBITDA to a couple million of EBITDA. And we try to grow them to 30 or 40 million of EBITDA and really create a real strong C-suite team. Guys like a guy named Pete Wong, and start working with them closely and start building a platform out and create companies that we expect to be around for a long time. That's we're not interested in acquiring assets and selling it off and that be it, right? We really want to develop companies that'll continue to have impact for many years.
Yeah. So I'm going to have you brag a little bit about Thurston by the numbers as well, because everything you've said has been true to my lived experience. And I've seen you all make decisions that were in the interest of a person. And we could have made another decision that would have been financially more rewarding in the short term. But in the long term, it's hard to argue that the decisions that you all are making aren't generating outsized returns. So if you could just kind of give us an idea of what the track record of the Thurston team's been.
Yeah, you heard Pat say many times. It's true. We've got the numbers to back it up, but we've returned close to $3 billion of capital back to our partners and our investors. And again, a lot of it just goes back to honoring people, loving on people, treating them. We're just not out acquiring assets. I mean, we really, when we have an opportunity for a partnership with a practitioner, we don't start out with numbers. First thing we're heavily vetting out is who is this I'm talking to? What type of practitioner are they? We're looking for high quality providers that really take great care of people. But, as much as I can, I try to learn about the personal lives. And I'm not expecting anybody to be perfect, because this guy right here is far from perfect. But there's certainly, from integrity standpoint, and what I'm looking for a partner who's going to be with me on the valley. Yeah, the valley at the top of the mountain, and we're going to have to go down the mountain. There's going to be times in the valley, and I don't need to look behind me. I need to know my partner be with me all the way through it. But we're going to come back out top, and we have successfully. And fortunately, we haven't had a lot of valleys, but there's always some valleys. And sure. So it's just finding those right partners and starting the journey with them and knowing that we've got each other's back regardless. And, what I love about our model, Pete, and across all of our platform companies is that it's truly a partnership model, right? So the practitioners are, they're not selling out. They're really just shifting their ownership. Yeah. Sure, they receive some cash for their equity in their practice, but then they also buy into the overall holdco that owns the platform, right? So they own the same stock that I own as a private equity investor. Exact same. I don't get a penny unless they get a penny, right? There's only one class of stock, and that's how we function. And so it's a true partnership. And that always made a lot of sense to me. And the other thing that I tell folks all the time they're coming in this world, Pete, as you as a CEO, I think, the world's so used to CEOs making some really nice salaries, some hefty salaries, right? And especially in the public markets. And I didn't know, I was shocked that, look, you've got a great family. You've got a beautiful family. You need to make enough money to really support them and do what you need to do. And you do. It's not that, you're making a good salary, but very reasonable, in my opinion. Yeah. And you're incentivized through equity. So unless this company grows and flourishes, that's how you're successful too, just like all of us. So I love the alignment side of it, and, it's like we're all in the boat together. We're all rowing together. We're all working towards a common goal, and then everybody gets rewarded through the equity. So I just love the model. And for me, getting into this world, that's one of the things that attracted me, because again, I was nervous coming in because I didn't know much about it. But after I really understood the Thurston model and how it worked, I was comfortable, and it's played out time and time again. So it is a model that works very well. Yeah, it brings everybody to the top.
Yep. So in the last kind of 10 minutes or less, I just wanted to kind of shift gears and put a lens on MODIS for anyone listening that doesn't know. Thurston has successfully founded 7 and now 8 DSOs specifically. What got you guys excited about one more DSO?
Yeah, it's a great question. Like I said, this is our 8th one.
Yeah.
You know, we've loved the dental space and been very fortunate to work in it. But you know, Pete, we're always looking for something. We you know, Pat always says there's 3 ways to make money in private equity. You can you know, you can cheat, and he said we don't cheat. He said you can be the smartest, and he said we're not the smartest, right? Or you can be one of the first, right? And we really tried to focus on being, you know, you look at, again, you go back to the time when we formed Smile Doctors, you know, when we formed Smile Doctors, I can't tell you how many phone calls I had. I was told we were about to fail because nobody thought specialty would make it in the DSO world because the general dentist controlled patient flow. So they just couldn't in their minds, couldn't make it work. Well, you know, it worked. And then US Endo came, Thurston did US Endo, Thurston did US oral surgery, you know, and now specialty dentistry is one of the hottest things on the dental side of the DSO world. But as time went on, you know, technology was ramping up tremendously. We were seeing general dentists really, because of continuing education and technology, really elevate their skills to a high level. And one area that we really were watching grow tremendously was on the implant side.
Yeah.
And the technology that's been developed to place implants today, they've been around forever, but as technology has evolved with scanning and imaging, the ability to place implants accurately that really integrate well and don't fail has grown tremendously. So, you know, we saw this opportunity, and nobody had really partnered with dentists that really wanted to focus specifically on implant, right? There was a Clear Choice model out there that's been really successful, but they were really direct to public, a lot of TV advertising, you know, had a brand. Whereas our model is that we partner with a dentist in their community. We don't rebrand them. You know, they maintain their brand because it's a brand that's well recognized and well respected. And fortunately, we met an oral surgeon down in Tampa named Mike Picos, who had an incredible platform doing lots of implant work. But in addition, he had a Picos Institute, which is a teaching institute that has now had about 6,000 dentists come through his institute. And Mike's been revolutionary and on the training side and teaching dentists about implant placement. And, you know, we just saw through the fact that moving forward, we're seeing these general dentists do more and more complicated procedures. And the fact that Mike had this teaching institute that was highly respected. And the fact that we can partner with this. So now we can bring, you know, GPs in, kind of have used the term super GPs that are able to do lots of sophisticated procedures. And so now we can really train them. We can leverage technology and really help grow their practices through things that they love to do. And again, through all this, really elevate patient care.
Yeah.
So we're excited about MODIS. We think there's tremendous opportunity there. I think, you know, Pete, when you join them and partner with a DSO, there's a lot of benefits. There's a lot of back end support. There's a lot of good, but I think this is pretty unique in the fact that we're going to be able to step the game up tremendously on the education side.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you're doing surgeries and doing things like that, it's nice to have the support, because if you're out there on your own, you know, I think we're going to be a huge, to add to a lot of these practitioners out there that really continue to expand their service and take care of patients, and we're going to be able to support them. So we're excited. We really are. I think it's going to be great. We're off to a good start too, right? As you
we're off to a running start. That's for sure. Well, hey, I appreciate your time. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you'd want to share with a seller that's thinking about MODIS or even just a sale to a DSO in general, that any sage wisdom that you'd want to leave them with?
Well, you know, I tell everybody all the time, there's no harm in going through the process. You know, first of all, we're extremely protective over numbers, and we don't talk outside shops, and nobody really knows. If you decide that you at least want to see what this looks like, how it feels, we get some basic numbers and do an evaluation, spend some time on the phone. So, I've never had anybody go through the process and say they wish they hadn't, because it makes you stop and think about, things that you don't have time to think about, right?
Yeah.
Potential retirement down the road, supporting your family, the financial aspects of your lives. You really have to step back and go, okay, wait a minute, let me think about it. Let me think through all this again. So it's a good process to go through. And look, it's a huge decision, and it's not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for everyone, right? It's an opportunity to explore something that was gigantic in my life, and I think it makes sense for a lot of practitioners, but it's not for everyone.
Sure.
We don't push anybody through the process. It's in the sales process that we go through. It's an evaluation to see if we want to partner together, and does it make sense for you and your family, your patients, and your team to be part of this platform?
Yeah.
Can we come in and be accretive to you and help you do what you do, help you do it better? Can we bring your team forward? Can we bring your life forward? Can we bring your patients' lives forward? Those are all the things that come into play. And, but unless you get in the game, you don't know.
Yeah.
So, the best way you can get in the game is to find a good potential partner and go through the process with them. And at the end, if you don't want to do it, just say no. I've had those calls, and I'm like, yeah, well, thank you. We enjoyed our time together. We're friends now.
Yeah.
I had a lot of those people call me back when some of them decided not to do it. And, they call me back 2 years later and they want to be a partner because, no matter what goes on, I'm going to treat everybody with honor back through the process. It's how I want to be treated. And, so that's generally what I tell people is like, look, there's no harm, no foul in going through the process and seeing if it makes sense for you. And, Pete, we've been very selective over who we partnered with over time. We've walked away from a lot more opportunities we were partnered. And that's just because it's got to be right on both sides. Last thing I'd want to do, I'd hate to know that I brought somebody in a platform that wasn't right. Yeah. So, I'd break my heart, right? So we spent a lot of time and energy making sure there's a culture fit there.
Yeah.
And it all lines up so that we can be good partners. And it's a big decision, and it's not a quick decision. If it's something you decide to do and you decide overnight, you need to slow down, think about it a little bit more, spend more time.
Yeah.
Do your homework. So,
yeah. Hey, thanks a lot, Dana.
Yeah, no, Pete, I appreciate you. It's been, like you said earlier, I've enjoyed working with you since you came on board. I guess you came on board, October last year?
September.
Or September.
Yeah, September.
Yeah. Pete's got
a
Pete was a Ranger, got a military background, did several tours, and incredible dad. Honestly, Pete's a great example on the dental side or the medical side who I like to partner with. And so I want him in the CEO. Great father, great family man, loves the Lord, works hard, and wants to bring people forward as well. So, Pete, I appreciate everything you do for MODIS, and we're excited to build this platform out, change some people's lives, bring some people forward, create a great company along the way, for sure.
Yeah. All right, man. Hey, thanks a lot, Dana.
All right. Thank you, Pete.
Thanks for listening to Community Conversations. This podcast is powered by MODIS Dental Partners, an organization dedicated to supporting dental professionals with cutting-edge technology and continuing education opportunities through the PICOS Institute. If you enjoyed what you heard, follow Community Conversations wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. See you next time.